morning. I guess I'll just start with good morning because I know it's early for half the people in the U.S. But now we got a few people here. Cool. Hey, Finbear says it's perfect. I'm okay with that. We hit Finbear's time zone, which I believe it's in Scandinavia somewhere. She'll have to remind me. Norway? Is that Norway flag? I think. I'm sure she'll tell me in a second. But anyways, I usually say good morning, good afternoon. Don't say good night yet, but I'm just going to say good morning today because that's the theme, I guess. We had to do early one today, schedule-wise. I had a crazy day, so I had to move a couple things around. So I appreciate you all tuning in. This is going to be a good one. I know I say that every time, but seriously, I'm excited to talk to Yashdeep. This is it's something near and dear to my heart too. I'm not so much. I want to say, if you like burning down everything, no, that's not what anarchy is about. I'm more on the libertarian side, but I want to know more about the anarchy side and more about how the overlap is there, because I think there's some good stuff. And I think anarchy's kind of got a bad name in a lot of ways. So I think it'll be fun to go through that. Come talk a little bit about politics. I'm not usually one to talk about politics, but I think with the right person in the right atmosphere, I think it'll become an interesting discussion and a productive discussion. So that'll be cool. Of course, we're going to talk about HEX, Pulse, all that fun stuff too. Venture capitalism. Yashdeep is part of Legion VC, and that's something I'm interested in as well. Venture capitalism in general, something a lot of crypto folks might be interested in once they want to put their money to work after mad gains, right? So I'll just chat real quick before we bring Yashdeep in. 2 hours ahead of London. So, okay, I think you're in Scandinavia somewhere. Pretty sure. Appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for subbing. Yeah, if you're not subscribed yet, like and subscribe, por favor. Suzy Q, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Who else we got in the chat? Yeah, appreciate it all. Let's, without further ado, Yashdeep, let's bring him in. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? Hey, Max, nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on.
This is the first time we've ever spoke over video. That is true.
Yeah. Seems...
A month ago, I was like, I want to get you on the show. Let me schedule you a month out. And he's like, I have no idea what I'm doing at the time.
I was like, I would love to be on, but
yeah. I'm going with the strong tentative, and we made it work out somehow. Yeah,
you're persistent. Yeah, you're persistent, so that helps. And you messaged me the other day. I was like, oh damn, it's already like that time of a month. Like, are we live? All right, let's do it.
Well, so when the schedule works, it's like I try to, I guess my biggest fear when I'm streaming is I don't have a guest to do that week or that next week. So I always try to be really proactive with scheduling. But sometimes I'm like, shit, like I'm full now, but maybe because I was taking a couple week break. I took like 2 weeks, basically 2 weeks off from streaming because I had family visiting and stuff. And I was like, shoot, I got to get some of these lined up ahead of time. And I came across you, and I think I watched one of your streams that Bran had shared. And I was like, oh, this is great. Another person who believes in the free market and other things that I like. Yeah. And then I was like, oh man, on July 4th, I should do a stream with like, some type of like, person like that. And then that didn't work out. I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything on July 4th. So anyways, I had to schedule you way ahead of time, and I understand your apprehension, but I'm glad it worked out. I only had to change the time one time to make it earlier, which, hey, we got 9 or 10 people here. So that's more than I thought it would be.
Yep.
So yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show. Like I said, I try to bring quality guests, people who have medium-sized to big to galaxy brains of that sort and that scale. And I've been following your work, for the last month or so, on and off. And I like what you have to say about a lot of different topics. So for people who don't know you, you want to give like an introduction? Who are you? How'd you get into crypto, venture capitalism? Like, how'd you find Richard? All this good stuff.
Yeah. Well. Thank you for the kind words.
Of course.
Let's see. As far as like, since we're going to talk about like freedom and stuff, I guess it started kind of way back in 2008 and 2009 when the crash happened. Before that, I was just a Democrat because I'm brown and that's what's expected of you. And
hey, I hear you. I used to be there too. not the brown part, obviously, but.
Well, these days you can be anything you want to be. So.
Oh, for better or for worse, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, back then, I was like, okay, something's not right. Like, how can they get away with like all this money printing? How can they just bail out these banks that did bad business? And So I went down the rabbit hole. I found out about Ron Paul, and I went deeper and deeper. So I went through the phase of being a libertarian for a long time, and then I was like, well, no, I'm a hardcore. It took a while for me to break the libertarian mindset and like the minimal government mindset. And then at one point I was like, no, this just doesn't work for me. And I went into anarchy. I went into the ANCAP. But then more recently, I've been, because of COVID, I've seen what the negative side of corporations are. And so I wouldn't say that I'm an ANCAP, which is anarcho-capitalist, because corporations, this is what the anarchist left complain about, the more sane anarchist left. I'm not talking about like the ones in the north west that have their camps set up and everything else like that.
Yeah.
I forgot what they call it, the choppa or whatever.
Oh, Chaz Chop.
Chaz,
yeah, that deal.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yeah, I mean, they are anarchists, I guess, but they're not the left anarchists that I would associate with, or the right anarchists that I would associate with. So anyway, I think, corporations can run away from you, and they have. And so, I went through that whole experience. And so I learned about money. I read Ron Paul's book and the Fed. So I really got involved in money. I understood economics a lot better. And then 2016, I started buying Bitcoin because before that I was doing gold and silver, but then I'm like, I'm not making any money. I bought the top of silver, at $40. And then I was like, crap, what the hell did I do? Down to like
silver was at $40, man.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I followed it. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, this is years ago, but it pumped pretty hard. And then I bought the top and then I just sat on it. And I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be something else. And I finally came around to crypto, started buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. And just from my economics background, when I heard Richard talk, I was like, this guy's, he gets it. He is a lot more about freedom. He's not an anarchist, but he gets it. And that's why I knew when he came up with HEX and he was asking questions about inflation and scarcity and having a dynamic system and what is an interest rate, and things like that. I was like, okay, yeah, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. So I started listening to him more and more. He's, abrasive at times, and I like that. He's, he tells you like it is.
He gets the people going.
Yeah. So all of that stuff was awesome. And when the bear market hit, I just kept listening to him. And when HEX launched, I went in day one, like a lot of other OGs, and just been in the community since. In the beginning, I wasn't very public. I think in about September of that first year, I started to, do streams and stuff. But then streaming wasn't exactly for me. I just kind of stayed in the community. I hopped on other people's streams. My background at the time was I'm a mechanical engineer, but I left that career, and because I did well in crypto. I was in the medical devices, so when Richard was also talking about medical stuff, I was like, oh yeah, this resonates with me too. So there's a lot of synergy between us, even though we've never met and we've rarely talked to each other. But a lot of synergy, and I like the community. I was in the straight chat back in the days and stuff like that. So,
man, I remember the straight chat. I stopped. I didn't use Telegram for the longest time, and I just to this day, I still don't use it very often. I just get on there to check stuff and post every once in a while and to see what's going on. But man, I remember Strape, and he like strawberry grape. I remember him saying it so many times. I'm like, I still haven't went to it, but man, can we get a better name than Strape? Like, it's got to be a better name.
Yeah, he said the name kind of sucked, but.
And then when we talk about Scivive, and it's like, well, shit, you did it again. You did the portmanteau. Is it even a portmanteau? I don't know what kind of word combination it is, but I mean, I love Scivive and all this stuff, but it is funny the criticisms of the names and the different evolutions over time is funny to think about the historical perspective. So when you see, okay, everyone listening, when you hear someone say stripe or strape, and you hear anyone talk about CFD token or things like that, they've been following Richard for a while. Yeah.
The CFD token days. He had that one professor on that, he did a long interview. I don't know if he still has that video up, but you can go back to that.
CFDtoken.net, I think, is still up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a like just to kind of wrap your head around where Richard's head was at the time. If you are curious about that kind of stuff, watch that interview. I can't remember
Yeah.
what that he's a like the guy that he interviewed. He's like this super smart PhD, crazy successful, cited
David
many times for
something.
his research. Yeah,
Yep.
so it's good to see because it wasn't all about Hex at the time. He had to pivot to Hex because he's like, okay, first you need the money, then you can save the world. And I was like, I agree. Money is a tool, and people don't understand that. A lot of times they think money is something else, or well, actually, I can't understand why they don't understand it because
They don't teach it.
well, they don't teach it, but money, they print it whenever, so it seems worthless, so there's no
Yeah.
value. You don't see the work that you do. It's supposed to represent your time invested, right? That if I work as an engineer for 9 hours out of a day, for 365 days, or on a salary job, like that transfers into money, and I hold it as money, and then I can spend it elsewhere. But when they print trillions of dollars, now it's like, well, all that time and energy I spent, it's not worth that, and so the
Yeah.
meaning gets lost.
It's a beautiful way of looking at it too, because if you see it that way, if you truly, because I think a lot of people they could hear that phrase, they could hear what you just said 1,000 times,
Yeah,
and they could go to sleep listening to it, they could wake up in the morning listening to it,
yeah,
but if you don't understand the words behind it, and you don't understand how it actually affects your life and how it takes away from your energy,
yeah,
and your time and all these things, like you just won't get it. And then maybe one day, if you're lucky, you'll wake up and be like, oh shit, I get it now. But
yeah,
there's so many people, they can hear that from 50 different people 50 different ways, and they still don't quite grok what it means to them. And but they'll tweet it, they'll keep repeating it, they'll say it, which is fine. But it's just such a tragedy that most people, even though they have access to the information, I said, they don't teach it. Even if they teach it, most people, the 1% is real, people. The 1% is real. There's a 1% in all kinds of different verticals.
yeah,
Money, obviously that's the one that gets all the popularity or all the news press and stuff. But the 1% of people who understand things such as HEX, things such as money, things such as what Yashdeep was just saying, I mean, it's that's real. I mean, that's, if you're in that 1%, consider yourself lucky, and pay it forward. Make sure other people are grokking what you're into, and that's what we're trying to do with streaming too, like getting these ideals out there like that.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of what is the term? NPCs, non-player characters. Like,
Yep.
people are just
Yeah.
they're drones. Like, I have friends, good friends, that I've tried to tell them for the past 12 years, like this is not what you think it is. Like the way the system works is not the way you think it works. They just have a very naive, like, high school education of how everything is, and they don't get it. They won't get it. It's not like they're incapable of, that they're dumb or anything. It's just that there's like all these barriers. Like, it's actually, it takes a lot of brain power and a lot of time, and like you really have to struggle with these ideas. And I just feel like people don't want to have to struggle with that when they have so many other concerns in their life. So it is almost like, for some people who have the privilege to be able to spend some time to think about it, they get it. But there's so many problems that we have. Like, people are working nonstop to make ends meet. They have kids, or they have all these other things. They really don't have the time to invest in these things. So, like, I don't actually have, like, I understand when people just watch mainstream media, or corporate media, and they internalize it because they don't have the time to figure it out for themselves.
Is
And
that the
that's why,
tragedy of convenience, or because everyone wants that, right? Everyone wants that summary, but
yeah,
so everyone wants the good summary, but if they can't control the content or the quality, but they can control when they get it and how they get it, then maybe they'll just take anything like mainstream media, right? Like,
yeah,
they summarize what's going on, even though it's far from the truth 99% of the time. It's no one's going to go do all the research to get it. So when you optimize for convenience, which is natural, everybody wants it. That's the thing. Like, you can't call people dumb for doing that, because you want the same thing. It's just you pay attention more to the quality side, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wish there was a lot of things that could change, and I think it starts with education. Education is probably where all of these tendencies start. Where you're told what to do. You have to raise your hand to speak. There's a time and a place. You have to learn history at this hour. You have to learn math at this hour.
Yeah.
Everything's regimented, and so it gets indoctrinated into them until they're 18, and so I really am very much against public schooling. And I think that's where it starts. But then once you have that foundation, it's very easy to control people throughout the rest of their lives. Because if I start talking about like the Bolshevik Revolution or French Revolution, people, they want to feel like they understand history because they were told that they passed high school. So of course they get history. Of course they know what communism is. But when you bring these ideas to them, or you say, well, the Nazis were actually socialists, like these, that's in the term Nazi in itself, that's what it means. It's like they want to say they know this, but they don't really know it. And it's just because they were told that, hey, you're smart. Yeah, you got an A. Hey, you passed high school. Like you get it, but you don't. And so.
Yeah, it's like I kind of analogize high school. I guess all grade 12 education as you're gonna be, your highest aspiration is to be a really good factory worker. Like you're gonna be really good to do what you're told, and that's but it's funny how does that create the opportunity for people who are again in that 1% of people who want more. They don't believe the system. They don't want to just be spoon-fed information. They question things. They're contrarian. They're all these different alternate ways of looking at the world other than what you're told and taught and stuff all life. If that weren't there, if everyone like this phrase, like if we made that go away, if the solution was everyone had this different form of schooling, everyone had this like really good education where they knew the answer, or they did the research and they first principles thinking, all this stuff, would the people who would there still be the opportunity for people like us who do question the system, things like that?
I think so, because you kind of touched on this earlier, but within every industry, there are the 1%, right? And so if things become more decentralized, there would be more 1% within the industries and communities that you live in. And so it doesn't have to be the case that we have a globalist world where the 1% is centralized, of the 1% of the world. You wouldn't have to associate with people in other places that you don't agree with, and then you can just become 1% of the area that you're the demographic and area that you reside in. Now, I think we're to the point where we have a globalist world. People want to travel around the world, and so that's going to happen anyway. But things could become more decentralized, and so you can have the 1% of hexagons, you can have the 1% of Ethereans, you can have so all these things exist. You can have the 1% of engineers, you can have the 1% of medical doctors, and all those verticals exist. And so, for sure, but yeah.
I just want to say on that too, is it desirable to flip it, to have 99% of people really well educated and they actually know what's going on, or 99% of people in Ethereum, in Bitcoin, in HEX, blah, blah, blah. Is the world better if you could flip those two and have just, the 1% of people be the dummies or the people who don't get it, blah, blah, blah?
Well, if you look at, I don't know how deeply I want to get into this, but like IQ is a very touchy subject. You already have a large population of people that have a disadvantage, and it's no fault of their own. But those exist, and you have to find ways to address that, right? Because like you could say the average dummy, let's take a person with the average IQ, and then you can make fun of that guy because they have the ability to do better, but they choose not to. Okay, that is a dummy in my mind. But somebody that just doesn't have the advantages and they, the God-given ability to do more, but they're otherwise want to be contributing members of society, like you have to find a way to service that. And so, this isn't something that anarchy necessarily solves. So there is no perfect society or solution. And so you still have to find a way to include those people because they can add value, right? But you just have to find a niche for them to be able to tunnel that, and you're going to have to provide that for them because they're not going to be able to provide that for themselves. And so, yeah, you're still going to have a structure of society where there are the 1% of people that are running stuff and have the good ideas that bring about the society that we live in. But it shouldn't be a monopoly, right? Those 1% should be able to be knocked off. you have some, let's say, William Bates, if you get what I'm saying,
Okay.
and yeah, like those types of
Well,
characters that in a more free market society with their bad ideas should be knocked down, but because you have monopolies that enforce their bad ideas, they stay where they are.
Well, so is the best we can do to take the people that you mentioned that are they know there's something fishy going on, and they don't have access to the information, or they can't quite understand it, or is the best we can do is help those people like rise up? Like where can we be most effective for making the world's IQ higher, in that analogy?
Well, so two things. IQ, I think, improves with health. So if you can make people healthy physically, that is a big determinant. It's very easy for your IQ to go down over generations, and it's a little harder for it to go up. But I think you can move the bell curve of the IQ quite easily. And that IQ is like a running average, so 100 is the average. And so that 100 can move up. That 100 could be today's 100, could be the future's 120, or it could be the opposite, right? And go in the other direction. So I think that should be a priority. And now we see what's happening. There's factories being burnt down that provide nutrition. There's farms that are being bought up for the purpose of feeding people processed stuff by somebody by the name of William Bates. And I don't want you to get censored, and I don't want the algos to pick this up. That's why I'm speaking code.
No worries. Well, I wanted to,
yeah.
I just want to say on that too. I think, were you the one who recommended the politically incorrect history of America? Is that the one? Okay. Yep. I've been listening to that, and it's kind of harkening back to, so my view of FDR. So I feel like I was, I think most people's view of FDR was Pearl Harbor. They watched the movie Pearl Harbor. And not taking anything away from his disability and overcoming this and all these strong things, like all that was great for the American spirit, great for aspiration, inspiration, all that stuff. But his policies and stuff in the book, they talk about Hoover and things where he didn't get enough credit for certain things. If you actually listen to these politically incorrect versions of history and things like that, they really, and I'm not saying I agree with everything that's happened in the book. You don't have to agree with everything to get nuggets out of it. But my view of FDR changed a lot just listening to that. I'm almost through it. I've been listening to audiobook for, I tend to listen to audiobooks like chunks at a time, especially when I'm driving or whatever. So the past time. But this book has been excellent for that. Yeah. But I wanted that to kind of segue too into, we had a question here, about Wallstead on the chat, about books. Yeah. And this was for you a few minutes ago. Oils equals could. Could you recommend 3 books we should read? And the one I mentioned, I would just throw that in there. So the politically incorrect. God, what is the name? What's the title? I keep messing it up.
Politically Incorrect Guide to American History, I believe.
Yes, that sounds right. Yeah, so that would be one. So I feel like you're on the book. Yeah, it's a good moment to talk about books too, if you have anything to recommend to folks.
Well, so that definitely. Thomas E. Woods, he's a great historian. He has he has lots of other books. So I'm going to slowly work my way through them. I've followed him since Ron Paul days as well. Him and Ron Paul are good friends. So if you are of the libertarian mind, look him up. He is actually more of an anarchist. But he doesn't project that. He just reports on the facts. And I think you might, knowing that now, you might see within the book where he is emphasizing some areas because of his anarchist ideas. But at the same time, he is also reporting on the facts and bringing light to a lot of different things that you might otherwise never hear of. One of the biggest things of that book that really shocked me was right in the beginning when they talked about how most of the Americas, we're told that, the Europeans came over and they just robbed and pillaged all the Indians. And Thomas Woods, he puts together a framework of a viewpoint that maybe that wasn't necessarily the case. He's not saying that it didn't happen at all, but it didn't happen to the degree that we are led to believe, like that it's just that, you know,
the narrative is different than the popular one.
Right. And so that was like, wow, that's crazy. So I think that was probably the most shocking thing to me. So he's a great historian. Now, if you're interested in anarchy and you want to learn about the more all the different sides, the left, right, but the framework, the philosophy of it, I would probably recommend this book, The Anarchist Handbook. It was put together by Michael Malice, who, if you follow him on Twitter, he's a complete troll and he's hilarious. But this is a really good book. It's a compilation of all the not all of them, but a lot of the influential anarchists throughout history, and so you get to see all the viewpoints from different people. If you want to learn about the economic side, like what got me started was probably End the Fed, but I think to the point where we're all at now, everybody kind of knows how the Fed works. Another book.
We're seeing it play out.
Yeah, check my Audible. Well, if you haven't read Atlas Shrugged, or any of Ayn Rand's books.
Ayn Rand's, yeah. I need to catch up on Ayn Rand's books.
Yeah.
How many hours is Atlas Shrugged? A while? Yeah. When I start seeing 25 hours, I'm like, man, if
you're not listening at 2x and you're listening at regular speed, it's 62 hours. Or not, 63 hours, basically. So
31 hours at best.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do the summary on that one. I want to hear it, but it's just like that's a long.
I've read half the book and then I got tired and it just never picked it back up. She just I already understood the philosophy, so for me it was a bit repetitive by the time I started reading it, but it was very good. And you can definitely see the parallels play out today with a lot of the way that the politicians would argue for things to happen, and then then you see what's happening in real life, and it's like, holy crap, they're making the same arguments in the book that she talked about so many decades ago, and look, the politicians are doing it now.
Very smart lady, definitely. Yeah. Everything I've read and seen of her so far has been very intriguing and very mind-opening. So
yeah,
she gets a lot of hate. I don't know.
Well, I think it's probably because of the objectivist viewpoint that she has. She gets hate from the people that understand her. That's probably something that they disagree on. But they also, because she seems very cold. I mean, libertarians get this all the time, and anarchists get this all the time, because we're looking at the facts and we're like, well, public schools, for example. Yeah, I don't support public schools. Well, so you don't want kids that are underprivileged to have an education? Well, no, that's not what I said. And if you look at the economics, there are ways to provide education to the underprivileged. Like actually, India, for example, the slums of India have the highest amount of private schools. These slums, they are it is unimaginably poor over there, yet they have private schools because they outperform the public schools. And so
is it just a ton of straw man arguments, it sounds like?
Always, right? I mean, that's what people do who never think about these things. That's the best that they can come up with. So
ad hominem and straw man arguments. You should always steel man things. That's if you study logic, reasoning, try to steal anytime you go into a debate, try to steel man the other person's argument. Try to argue it better than they can. So you're going to know exactly their best points. And maybe if you're like, wow, actually they got a good point, maybe you might even change your mind about the subject.
So, and that's actually a great comment. Like just like steel manning, which is creating the best argument that the person could ever think of for themselves, and then even better than what they could think of, right? And then present the counter argument to that, showing that you understand what they're about to say or what they just said. So you reiterate back to them what they said, and then they're like, oh, okay, this guy is listening. But then you give them the counter argument, they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. You start, if they're intelligent or they want to entertain, then they'll start to see it.
Well, yeah, and it's not only more productive, but it keeps the polarization down. It keeps the ad hominem, the like me versus you, attacking the person instead of the ideal type of thing. It keeps all that stuff down so you can actually have a debate. A debate is not supposed to be two people yelling at each other until the crowd claps louder for the other person. Like it's not a debate. That's just like a show.
That's a sports.
It's a sporting event, I guess. Yeah. I got a question from Finbear. For HEX offering companies ways to do cross-border payments soon, have you thought about how we can help the biggest bottleneck to appear in the markets?
Well, I mean, Are you talking about companies in the real world, but not like obviously crypto's borderless? So that's definitely the answer there.
Maybe in a fiat on ramps type of world, is that maybe that's what Finbear is talking about?
Well, I know, people in
See if this
outside the
helps.
US can buy USDC, so that's kind of a way to interact with a lot of the broader market. I think fiat on ramp is a big bottleneck, but it's so if you tell somebody about HEX, people are like, oh, so where can I buy it? Can I buy it on Coinbase? Oh, can I, can I get it on Robinhood? Like those are the common, questions. And you have to go through the explanation that it's DeFi, that you want to get your money off of these exchanges, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a bottleneck, right? And it's so it's not necessarily the on ramp, like, because people, if they could just get onto Coinbase, they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I bought it, but they don't really own it. So I think understanding DeFi, even people in crypto don't understand DeFi, right? They don't understand what crypto is really about because a lot of people, they still have their money on exchanges. So I think that's a challenge. And I don't think it's going to come with regulations. It's going to be a grassroots thing. We have to just keep grinding away, telling people what real crypto is about. So I don't think there's an easy way. I think so one thing I wanted to touch on a little earlier is you asked, like, how do we get people, to wake up to understanding what's really going on? And I don't think we need the majority. I think you need a very smart, strong minority, because that's throughout history what makes these large movements, one way or the other, good or bad. It's a very smart, strong, driven minority of people that move the narrative, right? The majority,
the minority rules type of thing, right? Everyone's majority rules. You can see what's happening in the world right now. A lot of minorities are kind of ruling a lot of stuff, for better, for worse.
Yeah, so there's a very good TV show called The Turn, or The Turning. It was on AMC. It was about the American Revolution. Very, very, it's a historical fiction, but very deeply based in history. And it's about George Washington's spies, but they did a fantastic, phenomenal job in showing that people at the time, for the most part, didn't care one side or the other. They just wanted to live their life. And so it's not even necessarily that the majority of people are dumb. They just don't want to get involved. They just want to be able to live peacefully. And
they want to be left alone. Is that
Yeah.
You think that's like the summarization of like what every person who values freedom, who pushes back again, like in the libertarianism and anarchy, things like that, is just they want to be left alone?
Yeah, they want to be able to conduct their business and go about their life without somebody telling them what to do. That's an anarchy is just a relationship between two. Max, you and I have an anarchist relationship. I don't know if you know that.
Oh no! Why'd you do that to me? No.
Because there's no one telling us how to interact with each other. You reached out to me and I was like, hey, this, he seems like a smart guy. He has ideas and he wants to discuss them. Yeah, let's get on a stream together. Like, and that's all it took. There's nobody saying like, okay, yeah, you guys are streaming together, but you're going to have to give us 30% of your time or whatever your resources. Like, what?
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
So I just hit 1K subs, and I
think that makes me.
Well, I didn't mean it for congratulations, but thank you. I meant it to,
awesome.
as part of this, to say that I think I checked all the boxes on YouTube to monetize.
Yeah.
But to my mindset to this point is I do not want to monetize. I want a little fingers telling me, what to do in my business. I don't want to have to, I got to watch what, I mean, of course, I may get rug pulled from time to time, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But I don't want to I don't want to be influenced. I just want to be left alone. I want to create, I don't like to even be paid for my creative work a lot of times. So even though I'm eligible for monetization, and again, this could change in the future, it's how I feel right now at this moment, and it's how I felt for a long time. I don't want to monetize because I want to be left alone. I want to create my own content. And I just wanted to put that as an antidote to what you're saying.
Let me give you an option. You can monetize, and worst case, they'll have to demonetize whatever video that you get flagged for. But that way, for the videos that you're making, like, why not make money off of it? But two, if you speak in code, right? Because this is something that back in the day, like during the 60s, a lot of gay people had to speak in coded language to get around because it was very dangerous for them to speak out in the open, right? Now, obviously, that's not a problem these days, but that's a lesson you can learn. It's like, hey, because the environment is very hostile to, people, freedom-minded, liberty-minded.
Whatever ideals they have. Yeah.
So speak in code, and then the people that are in tune, you're gonna bond together even tighter, and you're gonna know what you're talking about. When I said Billiam Gates, like, you knew right away what I'm talking about, right? And
Yeah.
it's people that are in tune are gonna know, and then you have a stronger connection with them. And so consider that.
They're gonna start sending YouTube employees into these chats, man. You just triggered it. You just triggered it.
Bring them.
Yeah, it's just one of those things I don't know. Like I said, I hear you on the but thankfully, I'm fortunate enough not to need money. Yeah, but I went back and forth. I'm mostly stuck on I don't want to monetize. Again, maybe I'm not saying that'll never happen. Maybe in the future I will. Blah blah blah. But to me, it just feels like I get your point of worst that can happen is they demonetize you. But just again, being part of that system, being compliant. I don't know. As the reason we're talking today, like those kind of principles, I try to avoid having any kind of strings attached to a lot of things I do unless I'm personally involved and I love the program and I love doing it. And I'm not against promoting. Again, I tell people too, any guest on my show can promote whatever they want because they're a guest on my show. They can say whatever they want. Yeah. But like I don't know, sponsorships. It better be like something I'm really I really like. Like I'd never do like I'm not going to start shitting on sponsors. They may come back to this video one day when RHMax wants to do something. No, I'm just kidding. I did want to bring this up too. Let's see this. You guys can see this coin. Yeah.
What is
Does this offend you, Yashdeep? It's a little bit. It's don't tread on me. Let's see.
No, I like the don't tread on me. I just think the people that are going to tread on you are the people. It's like the thin blue line people. It's like they got one flag that says don't tread on me, and then they got the thin blue line, and it's like, well, who do you think is going to come tread on you? It's the thin blue line. So, yeah, I just think it's a funny irony. I love security. I just don't like the cops. And I think when I say something like that, that's an example of if somebody wanted to dive in deeper, like on the first surface of it's like, yeah, I like security too. I don't like what happened in Texas and how the cops reacted to that. Like, oh yeah, okay, I want security. On the surface level, I think a lot of people agree with that, right? But then when you think about it a little deeper, what does it mean to have security but not cops? I think that is a Pandora's box that people need to explore, but it takes a lot of effort to go through that experiment.
Yeah, it's I think I'm trying not to get into the last couple of years too much, but I just think that defund the police and the community policing ideals, they always, so if you say to the average person who's not part of that group that thinks one way or another, their first reaction is that's insane. And there's a lot, you could see a big point that way, but the ideal of the government having a monopoly on violence, I don't know. I always think there's a little bit to be said on both sides of that equation, like the for and against side of it. I don't know. What do you think? You kind of maybe touched on it with like private security type stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, no. Let me try to steelman this argument.
Yes, please do.
Well, so if you have a benevolent dictator, king, whatever, that it works really well. If you have a very educated, enforcement agency, that enforcement and judicial and legislative group, things could go pretty well. You could live a life, for the most part, unaffected by the rules that they come up with, because they wouldn't come up with very much. You wouldn't have cops pulling you over for going 10 over the speed limit, because if there's no victim, there's no crime, and they might be like, okay, that's not worth it. Now that's the ideal, I guess, in that case, and it could work. But it's just that the incentives, if you look at it as an economic question, are the incentives aligned? And, a lot of ways you find that they're not. So cops have no obligation legally to protect any citizens. They have no obligation. So there was a case in New York where there were cops on a subway and a man was stabbing somebody to death. And the cop stood in the other cart, the doors that go in between the two carts. They stood over there watching the whole thing happen, never made a move, and then they got sued. But the courts found that the cops had no obligation to provide any protection to that person getting stabbed.
So you see protect and serve, that's just kind of like their aspirational
That's just a
motto.
Yeah.
It's not really like ingrained in any kind of like, it's not in the Constitution. It's not in any kind of like state, local, federal legislation.
They do protect and serve. They protect and serve their state.
Best interest.
The state, and that's the judges, and all of that. That's what their job is, to enforce the laws. It's not to make a judgment on what the laws are. And so, those are conflicts of interest, right? Because now if you have security, you have private security, they have to provide you security at a better and faster rate. If you have polycentric security, right? So you have multiple security in a set area, they have to compete with each other. And so this is something else that's lost. Violence is expensive, like monetarily, it's expensive, right? You have to buy the guns, you have to buy the bullets, and you cause damage, training, everything. It's actually expensive, but it's only in this screwed up world we live in where they print money to pay for the violence that we don't realize how expensive it is, right? They have all these wars all over the world, and we don't realize how expensive it is up front. So in a system where you have competition, like security companies competing with each other, like you can make the case that, companies could band together, or somebody with a lot of money could come together and, take over an area. And I'm not saying that can't happen. Absolutely, that can happen. But I would argue,
Chaz Chop.
Yeah. But I would argue at least there wouldn't, the likelihood that you would have perpetual wars across the world that constantly are infringing upon people's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness and property, that wouldn't happen, right? You wouldn't have the war on drugs. You wouldn't have mass incarceration. You would still have people in jail, or something of that effect. But people that are participating in drugs and not hurting others, they wouldn't be, most likely they wouldn't be locked up for crimes like that for 20, 30 years and just have their lives destroyed. So I'm not saying it'd be perfect. I'm just saying it would probably be better.
Well, I think you touched on incentives too. I think that's so key. People, we could sit here all day and talk about logical arguments for why the world should be the way it is. And that's good intellectually, but when you get in the real world, it's about incentives. You still need the foundation, still need the structure, you still need to think about things, first principles thinking, you still need to figure out how stuff actually works and then build it from there. But when you put it in the real world, if people aren't incentivized to do the right thing, they're not going to. They're going to do, even do what's in their best interest, right? That's the way a lot of capitalism works. But it's if you incentivize people to take money away from people, steal, if you're like, oh, we're just not going to enforce the law, so cool, I guess you're going to lock up all your stuff in all the stores, like California's been dealing with a lot lately. That it's going to happen. It doesn't matter, what makes sense. It's what people are aligned to do.
And some improvements you can make right now with the system we have is you can get rid of qualified immunity. I think that's what it's called. And it's basically where you can't sue the cops for wrongdoing in many cases. So that's a bunch of bullshit. They have internal audits, right? They just audit themselves, like conflict of interest. So there are incremental changes that can happen right now that would make things a lot better. And so even though that's not what I want here, that's something you can dig into. And I think Jerry has a question. I don't know the case number for that. I'm sorry. You're going to have to look around for it. But the cues I can give you, it was in New York City, it was subway, it was a stabbing. So you're going to have to look around some for articles related to that. I don't have that memorized. Right? Head security in Mexico. Well, hopefully there's a lot of. Hopefully there's a lot of security agencies and there's multiple heads
in Mexico. Yeah, we're going to get into Mexico and stuff in a minute. I did want to, let's see, should I go Ukraine or should I go Legion VC? Would you pick one?
I don't.
Which one first?
You're not going to get demonetized, so that's not a problem.
Not a problem here at the RHMax show.
Let's talk about LVC a little bit. So
okay.
LBC got started as a what is it like? LBC gets together online.
You can just do, I mean, just framing. What is Legion VC? Who
Yeah.
is it? What is your vision? All that stuff.
Yeah. So what's it like? Well, we're just a group of friends. Actually, that's how we got started. It was a group chat of friends that we came together way before we had any, ideas of making money.
We are Legion.
Yeah, yeah. And then of that group, we kind of we forked and we created Legion. And the idea was like, hey, these sacrifices are happening. We can help everybody get together and make a higher multiple as if they're a whale. And so by doing that, and if we take 10%, for doing all the work of pooling things together, marketing this, and then redistributing the funds, we'll take a 10%. But if you get a 2.2x, that 10% is negligible, right? Because you just doubled your money or a little more than doubled your money.
How dare you make a profit? How dare you?
I know.
So many people are mad about stuff like that. They're like, oh, there's people
and it's
doing.
Fair. It's fair. I can see the criticisms, right? Like we're here because we talk about not your keys, not your coins, right? And so here we're creating a pool, right? And now that there's nothing in the pool because we've sacrificed everything, but now the responsibility is on us to return the funds when they're available. That's fair, right? I understand that criticism. The pushback I would have is, in what real life situation do you not have that type of dynamic? When you hire a plumber to do the job of fixing your sink, you are putting trust in them to do the right work, and then you pay them for their work. Whether you pay them up front or you pay them on the back end, at some point
we're going to make a plumber smart contract. Okay, plumber smart contract.
Totally trust
there's going to be like a robot that comes in here and changes your flusher. I'm trying to think of plumber
with no mistakes. Yeah, no mistakes. Everything's flawless.
And it just the bot just does its job and leaves, and then the money is exchanged. Okay, we don't need your real world type stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how it started. I mean, and it's a very minority of people. It's people with maybe a very big bag that felt threatened that we were pooling funds, and therefore they would have to sacrifice more to be able to get the top wallet. That type of person might be upset and causing problems, if you know who I'm talking about. But whether they're serious
I try not to know about any of the drama.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. But that is the scenario. And so, I don't know.
So it's it's a few of you start an organization to basically pull sacrifices and manage funds like that.
Yeah, so that's where we got started. Oh, and the last thing I want to say, we've distributed funds on testnet. Everybody's gotten what they, based on what the testnet numbers were, we've redistributed back. Many people have come to us with questions. We've answered all those questions. If you have more questions, you think you were wronged or you got the wrong number, reach out to us. Now is the time to do that. But we have a 100% hit rate. We've gotten everything done correctly. So I challenge you to come to us and, tell us that we did something wrong, because now we can fix it. But, anyway.
Shoot the email to wrongnumber@legionvc.com.
Well, you can find us on Telegram. We have Legion VC News Telegram channel. So find us there, message us, DM us, and we'll get that taken care of. So we had that idea, but after we saw like, hey, this is a good idea. Well, we have other ideas. Well, why don't we pursue these other ideas? Why don't we tell people to come to us when they have ideas, and then maybe we can fund those ideas. And that's what venture capital is. Whether you have a good idea or somebody else comes to you with a good idea, you try to fund that good idea and try to develop it and make the community better. So we've worked on some PulseChain projects. We have people coming to us. More recently, we had hired a dev company, went through some challenges with the dev company, and then we found some individual developers that have their full-time jobs but also wanted to work inside PulseChain on the side. And we've talked to them about a few ideas that we have, and so they're understanding the dynamics, which has been pretty interesting. Like, if you hire a company, they're going to do the work on an hourly basis, but if you give a developer a percentage of the project, now they have an incentive to do a really good job regardless of how many hours it takes. And so there's trade-offs there, but I prefer the latter. because then I don't have to put up any money up front. But then they also do a better job.
It's in their best interest. You've aligned their interest, as we spoke about.
Yeah. So, it's been a crazy learning experience. So my role as a CEO, I do the day-to-day like decision making. But a lot of people are familiar with Wendy's for Tendies, Motley, those two other guys. We have Crypto Vince. We have Nikki, who's a little bit less known, but he's working on some things to become more prominent in the community and in crypto in general. But he's a hard worker. We have Crypto Chunk and Jay Mills. They do more of the store stuff. So we have hexmerch.com. You can buy hats like this.
You all run Hex merch?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
So we'll be at PulseCon. We'll have a booth there. If you want to buy shirts on the spot and some of the other merch that we have, you'll be able to do that.
I have a bunch of stuff can I borrow your booth? I feel like I'm bringing a bunch of Richard Hart Maximalist shirts to give away for free. They don't have my name on it or anything like that. They're just shirts. I thought they were cool, and I made a bunch of them. And I want to give them away at PulseCon. And I was like, shoot, I have like 3 boxes of stuff. I need somewhere to I'm just gonna stand in the middle of the conference and just start throwing them or something. I don't know.
That could work. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people will like it, and then there's going to be a lot of people that hate it. So,
well, we're going to have to straw man and steel man that argument. Just figure out what the best way to do it.
But free stuff is free stuff, so even the haters will like it. So it's okay.
I know. Yeah, that's funny. You were pointing out the RHMax the ones who think maximalism is not healthy would not be interested in that. I guess they'll have to get their shirt to someone else then. I don't know.
I mean, free shirt, they'll probably wear it to sleep or whatever. So I don't know why you wouldn't take it, but
they're not going to be burning it like LeBron jerseys, are they? PulseChain is not launching until 2024. Burn all the RHMax shirts. No.
Yeah, the maxi thing. It's like, if you want to be a maxi, be a maxi. If you don't want to be a maxi, don't be a maxi. Like, choose whatever you want to participate in, but then don't get upset with how other people make their decisions, and don't get upset with how Richard makes his decisions. Right? Like, he is free and autonomous and has the ability to do whatever he wants. And if you're gonna get upset about it, like, fine, that's your right to get upset. But like, dude, why? Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. People. I think maximalism just has I think maybe it's because the BTC maximalism, that kind of ideal is stuck in people's minds, where it's very adversational, and especially in the Hex community. Oh, be it BTC maxis, you all suck, blah blah blah. I'm just like, you can do maximalism in a healthy way. I mean, you think?
Well, so the BTC maxis, it's like, okay, we're telling them that BTC isn't the best, and we have all these reasons to back it up, and that's why Hex is better. But the problem that people have with Hex maxis isn't that there's something better than Hex. It's just that they want to promote things other than Hex, right? And so it's not the same comparison, right? So when Hex maxis, or like a Hexagon goes after a BTC maxi, it's a different dynamic than somebody who has a Hex bag and then ventures out and does other stuff and then feels offended that the Hex community won't support them. It's not the same dynamic, right? So that's my take on that.
Well, I did a good interview with Matt from Liquid Loans the other day, and we talked about the maxi mindset. And I was just, I don't know. For me, it's just, I like Richard's ideals. I like his products. Why wouldn't I want to promote them? It's in my best interest, isn't it? Our interests are aligned. Yeah. I like his self-development stuff just as much as his products. Really, I mean, the products are good to get rich in, monetarily. And his self-development, Scivive, his ideals, the way he thinks about things, or to get rich mentally. You not like being rich? I don't know. For me, it's a no-brainer. If I'm gonna, you got to bet on some horse. And it's is there a better person to follow in crypto than Richard in life in a lot of ways? I think it's a small group of people.
Well, I see. Like, I love and respect Richard. He's done he's given me opportunity, and I've been able to capitalize on it. And so I have infinite amount of respect for him for that. But that doesn't mean I agree with him on everything, right? And
Definitely.
I am
No one is
free
above
person.
criticism.
Right. Well, it's not that I would even criticize him. I just don't agree with everything that he has, and I wouldn't criticize him publicly, right? But like, I would just say, like, I respectfully have a disagreement with him, for example, on how healthcare should run. He's in favor of a,
Oh yeah.
right? Like he's an I don't want to put words into his mouth, but in general, he is okay with having a universal healthcare type of idea, like and. Uh, could I present some ideas to him to maybe change his mind on that? Sure, I think I could. But we have a disagreement on that. I don't fight with him on those things. I don't go to Twitter and start like blasting him about it, right? Like it's okay. Like he has different views than I do. That's totally fine. But we agree on so much. I don't want to ever tarnish that relationship. But if he ever finds out that I disagree with him on that, if he leaves, like, okay, dude, like that's cool, man. Whenever I see you, I'm still gonna say, now. Yeah, I'm still gonna be like, dude, thank you for everything you've done for me. Like that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I mean, he talks about all the time where he'd rather live in countries without guns, and he implies a lot of things about guns, and I'm like, I totally don't agree with anything you just said, but that's cool. I agree with pretty much everything else you say, but these other issues, I don't care. They're not. That doesn't matter. Like I care about. I agree with him on the stuff that matters. I'll say that.
Yeah.
To me, it affects me.
That's how you make friends, right? Like I have plenty of people that I'm friends with that I disagree with on so many of those issues. Just don't talk about it. It's okay. And sometimes it's hard to not talk about those things, but like, just don't talk, find other commonalities and then enjoy that person. Like, I think that's something that I think in a ways hexagons have brought us together in a lot of ways, right? Because 2020, we were all basically locked up in our houses. So we created a community online. And we found that we liked each other for so many reasons. And now that we're being able to go back out and do whatever we want, and we have the freedom back, it's we're
as long as we behave, right? As long as we behave.
But now that we're going out and we're saying like, well, I agree with you on all these things, but not this thing, and so I'm just going to continue to associate with these people. Now we're becoming tribalistic, and I think the one way to break that is to just don't focus on the differences, right? Like if you disagree with somebody, but you otherwise have a lot of respect for them, like find a way to make it work, dude.
There's plenty of liberal friends that I want to choke when they say stuff sometimes, but I'm like, we have other things in common, thankfully.
Yeah. So, just don't talk about those things. Oh, exactly. God damn it.
Guess who's here?
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I don't know what you're talking about. No, we had a friendly bet. No, it wasn't a bet. I guess it was a bet, but it was he gave me some advice and he was right. And I was like, hey, if you're right on this, I'll get you, because Motley and I have matching Keepa, like the carry-on LV bags, and so he's like, where's my LV bag? So I was like, okay, if you're right on this call, which he was, I'll get you an LV bag. So that was the agreement. And one of these days, whenever I see him next, maybe we'll work that out.
You've heard it here first. There'll be LV working out of some sort. All right, let's talk. Let's hit Ukraine for like 5 minutes, just real quick. Okay. I hate not to answer the question. Find the question real quick.
Yep.
So I like when people ask questions. I try to, unless they're just literally insane, I try to post them. Let's see. What the fuck was it? There it is. Okay.
Putin is ex-KGB. I think you should really. There's a really great. What is his name? Now his name's. There was a great interview back in like maybe the 80s or something of a KGB ex-KGB guy that came to America, and he was telling us how the KGB work and operate and think. And it's so what I'm trying to say is it's very useful to first understand how deeply how deep the KGB understands psychology and the different ways they move, because and if you understand that, and then you understand how Putin was able to rise up in the ranks of the KGB, I would just say that he is incredibly smart. And while he is not wrong on a lot of things, he's not wrong in when he says that. I don't think that's all there is to it. And if you understand how the KGB works, you'll probably understand what I'm trying to tell you right now. There's probably some other motives going on that, he's playing 4D chess. I will say that most likely. He is not dumb. He would not invade Ukraine if he didn't have some tricks up his sleeve. And the America made it sound like, oh, this is a no-brainer, we're going to win, blah blah blah. And I don't think that's the case. And Ukraine, for the most part, is mostly Russian. They speak Russian. Culturally, they identify as Russian. And when Russia also invaded Crimea, it was mostly Russian for the most of the time. And so these are just, they're lines on a map, right? They're imaginary lines on a map. Things move around. This happens all throughout history. We know this, but we think in our present day that these lines can't change. We have this idea of the United States as a fixed thing for all eternity, but that's not the case in history, right? Italy, for example, has morphed many, many, many times. Spain has morphed many, like all these things they're fluid, right? And we have these fixed ideas in our head. So that's something to keep in mind with all this
Western
stuff.
Sahara.
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like there's so many countries that are just, they don't even, when you look at a map, there's some places in, all over the world that you're like, is that a country? Is that a territory? Like, have this not settled yet? There's all kinds of weird situations.
I'm going to look up that ex-KGB guy. That's an interview you got to watch, unless somebody in chat knows his name right now.
Yeah, somebody post that, or I'll post it once Yashdeep gets it.
Yuri Bezmenov. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that one. That's a good one. Yeah, it's the one where he talks about like how you get the population, to change the population, do it from the inside out. Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, dude, and you parallel it with today. It's like,
yeah.
And the guy said this was so the interview was in the 80s, but he said this started in the 60s, and now you match it up with today, and you're like, holy crap, like where we've come. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So now also remember that he was talking about it. He's ex-KGB, right? And he's saying that that's what a lot of the KGB agents were trying to infiltrate the U.S. in those ways. And now you remember that Putin is also ex-KGB, and you can't take him literally for everything that he says, even if what he is saying is not incorrect. There might be some other alternative motives there.
Yep. Very interesting. I was going to say, I'm just going through chat real quick. Back to
It's a satchel.
Soon, yes. What's somebody saying? Thank you. Appreciate that, PulseTube. Yeah, PulseTube's awesome, by the way. If no one's been to thepulsetube.com/live, I might add, they should show us. Are they showing? I'm gonna check that real quick. Y'all better be showing me live right now. I'm telling everyone on stream that you're showing all the live people. I'm gonna go there real quick and check it. Heartbeats live. RHMax is live. Nice. Yeah.
I've never seen this. This is awesone. I don't watch a lot of streams anymore. Trying to focus on some other areas. So one thing I want to try to do is start to bring, like, we want crypto to grow, and there's lots of money to make within crypto, but the way to make crypto really grow is to take money from outside of crypto to bring it into crypto. And this is something that Wendy's has actually been harping on us, and I agree in terms of in the LVC group, that that's something to talk about and think about is how do you bring money back into crypto, right? And this is the time to do it. If you have money, dry powder on the side, DCA in, dude, you're going to be great.
Yep. On the Yuri Buzmal. Okay, we're gonna get off Ukraine here in a second, but I just want to say, funny enough, how I saw that video was a Polish friend of mine who I don't know, still, so I think the Eastern European culture, a lot of ways, they're always looking for World War III, and they like grow up with, especially that generation of like they lived through the Cold War, all this stuff. Unfortunately, they're like always like looking for the Russians are always coming, and then weirdly enough, it happened this time. But he's the one who sent me that stream, and I was like, I watched it, and that's one of the few ones I could be all right. This this is interesting.
Yeah.
Sends me a lot of other stuff. I'm like, man, you gotta calm down. You gotta it's not. You can never be. If you say World War III is coming anytime, yeah, you'll never be wrong. Like you gotta. Unfortunately, the culture there is they're like always like hanging on by the. They're always like looking for another invasion. Just
I mean,
to live a good life like that.
I think it's important to learn about Eastern European culture in that sense, because they have gone through a lot with a lot of communism there, there's people in the States that have no idea what that's like, and I mean, I really don't either, but I try to teach myself as much as possible, right? As much as I can be a historian about that stuff, I try to be. But
you can't live your life being like always like,
paranoid.
For him, like I would say, he doesn't get into crypto because it's too risky. And so like the mindset is like, we'll not invest in anything that like it's okay. I'll describe it like this. It's a survival mindset, not a thrive. I don't want to say thrival. I don't think it's a word.
Yeah.
It's not about thriving. It's
Abundance,
not about being rich or like none of that stuff. It's about surviving. Like, what can I do to survive? So of course they're not going to do risk on assets, and they're going to a lot of people in that mindset are going to stay away from that because at any moment, fucking Russians are coming, like stuff like that. So I think it's unfortunate that you have to have that in the back of your mind, even though it does happen every once in a while.
Well, one thing I'll say is, in general, the around the world, violence has been decreasing, and it's been a steady decrease. Like, if you year over year, if you look at it, it's been really good. And so they're fighting wars. And if you go back to the Yuri interview, you're going to see that they don't actually have to fight a war to win a war through violence. Yeah. And so there's a lot of psyops going on, psychological operations, and that's how they win these battles. And while I empathize with that guy, because through his experience and his family's experience, I'm sure he has a lot of understanding in ways that I don't. But I would also maybe bring that point of view to him, that there's wars being fought that aren't violent. They're psychological. So. And I think that's more of the future, because it's easier to manipulate people, right? Like something happened in 2020 that everybody became kind of brainwashed into, things that they would have otherwise thought is ridiculous, but they were doing it, and now they still believe it. And there's people still walking around with those ideas and beliefs, 2 years later, and it's crazy. And they're never going to get over it, ever. They're never going to change. I have people like family, not my family members, but a friend, one of my best friends, his family is basically just cut him off from socialization, because like they'll talk to him on the phone, but they don't want him next to him. Like they because he, he didn't participate in the things that they participated in terms of what they think is healthy. And so, dude, that's crazy. Family members, like, that's insane.
I know. I try to have a rule, just not talk about politics with families, but basically I try to have a rule to not talk about politics with anyone I like, anyone I want to hang out with, because it never works out unless you literally know the other person has exactly the same stuff that you can riff on together and you can have a good time. Yeah. Which is just not, it's probably not going to be your family, probably not going to be some of your friends. So you have to be careful to not just, you want to enjoy life, you want to enjoy your friendship, you don't want to lose friends. And you want to talk about stuff you're interested in, but just for me, I just make it a rule. I just, when somebody starts talking about it, I just like kind of steer it away, or unless I know for a fact that we're going to like be on the same page. And there's only a couple friends I could do that with. And it's fine. It's fine. Hexaco. So that's one thing I want to talk about too. Yeah. Hexaco, seasteading, like the whole like starting your own country type of thing. I know you did a stream on this. That's one of the ones I watched of you doing it. But can you just give us like you can compress it a bit, but just give us an idea of how that's actually possible. Like, I always think of Peter Thiel. He's one of my heroes out there in the business world and libertarian world and stuff like that. How do you actually get this done? If he's a billionaire and billionaires aren't doing it yet, like how do we get it done, for example? Yeah, no, good question. So, Peter Thiel, he's another good book recommendation. Peter Thiel, 0 to 1. 0 to 1. Yeah. That's definitely on the read. It's a very quick read. Anything Peter Thiel says, any speech he gives, I watch it. I love it. I'm a fucking Peter Thiel fan.
I like, he's a contrarian to himself, which I like. He is contrarian to the max. Like, he will say, like, sometimes he'll say some things that are like communist leaning, very socialized leaning, and then sometimes it'll be like completely capitalist, freedom, anarchy, and it's like all over the place. But I appreciate his thoughts.
That's a good way of putting it. I appreciate his thoughts more than anything.
Yeah. And so he actually funded somebody, what his name was, he's Milton Friedman's son or uncle's kid or something. I don't know. But I think is Peter Friedman or something like that. I can't remember his name. It's a little different. But he, anyway, he tried to do the seasteading thing. He also tried to buy some property in, I think, Guatemala, and try to set up an anarchist society. And it, he only donated 100,000, which isn't nothing, but it wasn't really enough to have significant impact. Like, you're going to need a lot of money, right? Because Guatemala is actually very dangerous, and so you're going to you have to have security set up right away. To protect your land, and and then you're going to have to set up agreements to kind of work with Guatemala or your neighboring, places. Because, if Guatemala gives you some land, but it's not next to an ocean, and you're landlocked, well, now you have to kind of work with the surrounding areas. So there's lots of challenges, and it's going to be a lot.
Military?
Well, you need security of some type, right? Or you need protection, somehow, something.
Yeah.
Because you never know, and it might not even be Guatemalan, the government that comes after you. It just might be the cartel or some rebels that see what you're trying to do, and if you're successful and you have money to begin with, and you go there and you try to set up shop and do something, they're like, well, we're just going to come rob you, and what are you going to do about it? I mean, Richard Hart's been robbed.
I think that's one of the criticisms too. That's one of the criticisms too. I mean, let's say all this stuff happened. I'll let you get back into like how it can actually happen, but just want to ask you real quick. Let's say everything happened, it worked out. We got a country, everything's going great, and then one day, what's stopping one day of just a drone coming by and just blowing the whole island up or whatever, or the whole artificial island or whatever it is? Like, how do you a lot of people see the protection of big countries as that factor of having the security and knowing that you're going to have another day and no one's going to do that. So that's how would you answer that criticism?
Well, so what would be the incentive for somebody to come by and nuke a community, right?
Because you can't have your own country.
No, I mean, I think violence is expensive, but that doesn't mean you cannot. You have to defend yourself. You absolutely have to defend yourself at all times. I'm in favor. I want to be able to buy fucking F-14s. I want a nuclear bomb. I want the ability to be able to buy that stuff, and have that protection. Now it would take a lot to get set up in that direction, or have like what the Israelis use, the Iron Dome, I think they call it, which so Israel and Palestine, they have a lot of conflict with each other, and so anytime there's rocket launches from Palestine into Israel, they have the Iron Dome, which is extremely successful. It launches counter missiles and knocks them out in a very safe area so that it never affects anybody. So it just shoots them out of the sky, and it's very effective. So those kind of countermeasures exist. I don't know how expensive something like that is, but that's something that I think would be well worth it.
So cost would be a factor for protection. Like, you need a lot of money in order to provide that kind of defense. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you're going to have to build to that ability, right? Like, if there's only 10 of you there, nobody's going to come kind of bomb you unless you're causing problems with somebody else. You're just not on the radar, right? People have other things to focus on.
You better be non-interventionist if we do this, right?
Yeah. But if you grow and you have a community of like 100,000, 200,000, a million, well, now you can scale. You should have the money to, at least roughly be able to get a loan at the very least to be able to afford that, and then pay it off over time. if you're a growing society. So like I think those things are possible. I think so the Second Amendment is about individual states. So one thing people don't understand is the federal government, the 50 states are supposed to be individual countries of their own. And then they come together more like a European Union, and that's what the federal government's supposed to represent. Now it's been, changed since the inception of that. But
yeah, the states' rights have been challenged since the Civil War and stuff like that too.
Right. So if you take a state in the middle of the U.S. and let's say they wanted to start a little, like let's say they wanted to secede from the rest of the U.S. Sure, the U.S. could come in and bomb that state, Colorado or something, right? Like let's say they had a secession movement, or Idaho had a secession movement.
Texas.
Texas. So they have well within their rights to do that, right? That is something that they have the right to do, and I think that's actually becoming popular, or at least it's becoming a conversational piece. That maybe a national divorce is something that we do, and in the book, Politically Incorrect Guide, that touches on that idea. So I don't know if you got to that point, but
not yet. No.
Yeah. So it talks about the Civil War and what it was really about. So.
Oh no, sorry, I did get to that point. That part, yeah.
So, these ideas that could happen. Well, what would be the incentive for the U.S. to come after a Colorado, Idaho, or some other country that's landlocked, right? Let's say some landlocked country that has to defend all of its borders. I don't think it would really happen, because the people that in the neighboring states, they probably have family members there. They probably have commerce that state does with other states. And so they would want to set up agreements to work with each other, right? A lot of the agreements that they have, the interstate commerce that already exists, that state is going to need resources from other places. So they're going to have to communicate and set up business agreements to make that happen. And so while I'm not saying that it's impossible, I'm just saying that it's not as likely. And you kind of have to cross that bridge when you get there. But in the meantime, you set up voluntary trade makes everybody peaceful. Like if everybody can make money off of something, then it benefits both parties to not engage in violence.
Yeah. So on the Seasteading, like why isn't a billionaire started their own country yet? Like how do we get this done? Is it a bunch of Hexans get rich in crypto? Could we fund it in that way? Like how does this happen? Like what do we need?
Well, so seasteading is a little different than like homesteading. Seasteading would actually have to be a little island in the sea. There's lots of engineering challenges that go along with that. So just for the sake of simplicity, let's just kind of maybe focus on homesteading, which is, finding a plot of land that already exists that you could potentially get. So you would probably have to find like, I'll say Sri Lanka, for example. Right now, they're bankrupt. They had a huge riot, protests. Well, they probably need a lot of money right now, and they might be willing to let go of some of their land to be able to get an influx of cash. And so you might be able to buy that land off of them and have that land become sovereign, right? Maybe you set up an agreement like, hey, we'll pay you for the next 10 years because we know you need money for some period of time because you're bankrupt. That's an agreement, like a loan, basically. And once the loan is paid off, that land is yours. It's no longer, they no longer receive royalties or whatever you want to call it. And so that's an opportunity. You go find a country where they're tight for cash, they're tight for money, they need resources, they want to set up these agreements, and you negotiate with them the ability to buy the land free and clear, no property tax. That's one way to do it.
Just imaginary horrible, throw it in there again. Say you make the agreement, but there's some other state in the world who's like, we don't think that's a good idea. We don't want these people to have power and use this land, blah, blah, blah. Do you think you think there's questions like that? Is your answer just like nobody cares?
No. So in that area, maybe India is like, we don't like this happening, and India might be hostile, right? I'm Punjabi, so that's the northernmost state of India. And there's a lot of conflict between that state and the rest of India. Not the people, but the government. The government they don't get along very well. And so, and Pakistan is a perfect example. Pakistan used to be a part of India, and then in 1947 they split, and there's still a lot of tension there.
A lot of people don't know that. I just want to say real quick, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh used to be same place.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
These lines, they move around, right? Nothing is forever. So, don't think that secession can't happen in the States. But yeah, maybe they're hostile to it. But you could, part of the negotiation could, you could, you want to have security. Maybe you work that in. Maybe you would reach, like if you're setting up a business, and you, like, what kind of business? Let them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of business would be, maybe like, I don't know. I'll give a basic example. Like you have an intersection, a busy intersection, and there's one gas station there, and you want to bring another gas station, and well, that's competition to that gas station. Now, competition actually helps both good gas stations. Is actually good, rather than like, I forgot what this principle is called, but if you have two gas stations, like, or you have one gas station 5 miles away from another gas station, now people have to choose which gas station they're going to go to, and maybe one gas station gets all the money and the other one doesn't. But if you have two gas stations right next to each other, now you split the cost, but now you bring commerce there and everybody goes there, so everybody wins, right? So competition can be good, but then if you have like more than two, I don't know what the perfect number is, but just for sake of arguments, if you have like 3 or 4, now you're like, well, now you're really splitting the money too, it's being divided up by too much. So let's say there's already 2 gas stations there, and now you want to bring in a third, and the 2 gas stations don't want the third gas station to be there. You're going to have to negotiate something potentially. If you're on a free market system where you have every right to buy that land and compete with them, now it might be in your best interest to be like, hey, I want to open a gas station here. Maybe there's some compromise we can have. Maybe I set up a car wash, and so I set up a car wash, and I keep my prices for the gas a little bit higher, but then people come to me for the car wash. Maybe they get some gas, but they come to you primarily most of the time for the car wash. Another place has a convenience store. Like, you can negotiate these things. It is
okay. So I guess your point in this would be the homesteading. You'd want to have something to offer to make sure
absolutely,
everyone was happy.
Is a negotiation. Okay. And that's how you do a really good job. You have to be a very good negotiator. You have to find out what the person wants and needs are. Another good book I'd recommend is The 48 Laws of Power. Not for the sake of power, but just the sake of understanding how to communicate with people. One more. Sorry, I know I'm throwing out a lot of books, but I think
bring them, man. Bring them. We like to read here and listen. Mostly audiobooks these days.
Yeah, Never Split the Difference by something.
Great one, Chris Voss.
Yeah, Chris Voss, another great book. But all these things are negotiation. It's important to be able to identify what the wants and needs are of the other party, and then be able to either provide that or have them value what you offer enough for them to, want to offer you more or something. So sure. Everything is a negotiation.
So how we get seasteading, homesteading, how we get our own country, how we get Hexaco comes down to, we need to get the resources, people, money together, find a place, have the technology, and make good deals. Make sure. Yeah.
In a very simplified version, yes. One last comment I'll make is, I know they're trying to have the new world order and everything, but right now every country is in an anarchist relationship with each other, right? And so there's no reason why you couldn't decentralize that further. And what I mean by that is, if there's a conflict between India and the US, there is no higher power above them that tells them how their interaction will go. They have to communicate with each other and negotiate and work it out. And if they don't work it out, or let's say US and Russia, they don't work it out, well, then you go to violence. But violence is, you try to avoid that at all costs. Like Cold War, they successfully avoided violence at all costs. I think Cold War was more of a psyop. And I don't think there was a zero cost to it, but at least violence wasn't the thing. And so these anarchist systems already exist. We're just not aware of them. And so you would have to just bring that idea that, yeah, you have to negotiate and work together, bring resources. And I think Richard Hart, with his big bags and growing bags and crypto in general, everything
Louis Vuitton bags.
is light up Louis Vuitton bags that I'm jealous of.
And the airplane. Don't sleep on the airplane. It's a nice airplane.
That is totally for flexing. That is no practical use to it. And I don't even, that thing looks like it's already stuffed. I feel like it's more of a stuffed airplane than it is with anything that you
How do you even carry it?
Yeah,
what do you put on your shoulder?
For?
What is it? I don't know.
How do you decorate with it? Like if it's a decoration piece, like where do you put it in your house? Like
you put it to the left of your microphone. No. I had a question here too. What do you say to people who want to leave the States to a third world country and have no family? Yeah, I think this when we were talking about the world. I was talking about the Polish kind of culture and attitude towards, Russia's always coming, all that stuff. What do you say to this question?
People who think they want to leave the States to a third world country and have no family. I mean, what is their motivation to leave if they have no friends, family, or work out there? I don't think I totally understand that question. If you could rephrase that, maybe I could try to address it a little bit better. But
Astro, you want to rephrase that, and we'll post it again once you're ready.
Yeah, and the reason why is like what is the incentive or motivation for somebody to leave? Like if there's tax incentives or something, and you want to be nomadic, like, well, that's your answer right there. Maybe somebody feels comfortable enough, or to just have like video conferences, with their friends and family, or maybe have their friends come visit them and their family come visit them wherever they are. But the other thing in a third world country is, you'll have to make some money somehow. You probably don't want to live off of your you probably don't want to live off of your crypto forever because you're just losing over time. So you want to provide that. And that's the other thing is like, yeah, crypto is great and you could live off your crypto if you do a great job, but then you're not a contributing member to society. And as a man, I think you want that. I think you want to be able to provide. You don't want to become complacent. Maybe people don't agree with me, and that's fine. But I think you want, like Max, what you're doing is you're giving value to people by having this interview. You're giving value through the conversations that we're having. You're facilitating these communications. And if a man just kind of sits around all day and drinks mimosas on the beach, like, bro, that's not a lifestyle. That's I don't have respect for that. Let's just say that.
Is that something you do, when you're in your 60s, 70s? Is there ever a time?
Even then, like, you have to have some hobby, dude. Like, you can't just be that guy that wakes up and does nothing and is pathetic. In my opinion, that's pathetic.
Sorry, I said 60s and 70s. I meant like 120, 130 because Sims.org.
Yeah, I mean, I think people that are active are also more, they're healthier long-term anyway. So, if you really care about your well-being, you're going to want to pursue that.
Yep. Got another question. What would be the best thing if the large number of Americans over 60 have no 401k, small amount of savings,
Yeah, I mean, most people can't retire. Their everything is built into their 401k, and the pensions are running dry. The Social Security is a failed system. The way it was designed is that if there's a surplus of workers, that surplus would, in a shortage of retirees, that surplus would get put into a separate fund. And then later, when it switches, that fund will be utilized to pay for the people when there's the reverse. But that fund has been dried up through Congress a long time ago. So the welfare state bankrupted this country a long time ago.
I would just say in crypto too. I mean, you have services like, not financial advice, but you have Rocket Dollar, where if you have access to your 401k in retirement, and you can put it into crypto, self-directed IRAs. There's a lot of crypto partnerships and companies out there doing stuff like that you can invest. If you think HEX is going to go up and you think PulseChain is going to do well, you can put your funds into stuff like that. So a lot of people, I've seen a lot of Hexkins. I think a lot of Hexkins are doing stuff like that.
Yeah, Rocket Dollar. I've had conversations with them, and then I just it fell off the radar. But I do need to reach out and set that up myself.
Hey, if you call them, you ask them about HEX, they'll be like, oh yeah, we know HEX. Like there's a lot of Hexkins doing stuff like that.
John Wick was the first one to tell me about it. So yeah, shout out to him.
Yeah. Yep. Toby Wananobi. I heard it on him and the Discourse Syndicate with Kinetics. I heard it on their stream. It was a great video. 15-minute clip. They clipped it out. 15 minutes. It tells you all you need to know about crypto, 401k, how to put HEX in retirement. Well,
so be careful about doing this all by yourself and not taking advice. Like there's a difference between a self-directed 401k and what you can do with that, and a self-directed IRA and what you can do with that, and the tax implications and all that kind of stuff. So this is definitely, I'm not giving you any advice other than you need to do more research, because even when you think you might not really know, and it is worth your time.
So much on it,
yeah. There's a lot you need to understand. It is not as simple as you might think, and so if you think it's simple and straightforward, you probably don't understand it enough. So you have to understand the nuances when you do that. But definitely look into that, because you could potentially set yourself up in a way that in the long term you don't have to pay capital gains on your investments through whatever self-directed option you go with. And it's self-directed, so in the sense that you can control what you do with it. You can even buy real estate with it, and there's trade-offs there. So again, do your research.
Just move to Puerto Rico, bro.
Yeah, I mean that's what Motley and Wendy's have done, and they're enjoying life.
I'm gonna go visit them. Are they in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Next time I go
visit them in the winter. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, there you go. In the wintertime, it's good. It's a good time to visit. Any down there. Gonna wrap it up here in a second. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, dude,
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to ruin it, but I would like to touch on just a couple more real quick. And thanks, chat. You guys have been killing it too. Lots of funny questions. More Louis Vuitton jokes, please. So keep them coming. Before I'll ask you one more on America and politics and stuff too, but I want to get a PulseChain question before we run out of time. But what does it look like to you in 2050, 2100? Like, is it like, what's the optimistic case and the pessimistic case for like?
I'm very optimistic.
Okay.
I'm an anarchist, and I am very optimistic because
that's good.
Okay, let's just like, what do you gain from being pessimistic? Like, if things go bad and you're pessimistic, okay, you're right, you win. Congratulations, fantastic. You didn't. What did you contribute?
Okay, you're back.
Oh yeah, you froze a little bit.
Okay.
But if you're optimistic about it, then at least have something to look forward to. Life is a little bit better. You got nothing to lose. Like, if things are as bad as they are, it is like the best thing you could do is be optimistic about it. Laugh in their face, right? All the things you see happening, make a joke out of it, because they know they can't break you if you can laugh about it. And so whether things actually do improve or not, which I think they are improving in very subtle ways, and things kind of snowball fast and things change exponentially. I think if I'm going to be honest, I think even though I'm optimistic, I think in the short term things are going to get worse before they get better. But I do see a case for things getting better.
2020 decade looks rough.
Well, I see cases already. I mean, there's the
not for HEX holders, not financial advice.
There's I like secession ideas. Like, I've seen Republican. I don't know if they're state congressmen or if they're federal, but they've talked about secession openly. People that are running for these offices, they've talked about it openly. So if it's to that point already, then we've already made a lot more progress than you realize. And a lot of people have, as many people that are just like NPCs and drones and from the 2020 period that we realize are just never going to change. There's also a lot of people that woke up. And so all you need is a very strong, smart minority of people that think there is a chance And I think things can change in a very beautiful way. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to change, and you don't need everybody to change, but you can have pockets within, maybe where you live, or you can create a pocket, or you can go to a pocket, and you can have a good community that supports each other. And I think you can thrive, and that's how you win. That's how you win.
I think cautiously optimistic is. I think a lot of people, they are by default, and I don't want to keep going back to Eastern European culture, but they seem to be by default pessimistic, or at least slightly pessimistic. But life's too short, man. You don't why be pessimistic? Like, there's so
what do you
many
have to
good
gain by
things.
being pessimistic? Like, you got to clap if you're right.
You're in the game
fine.
to lose.
Yeah, good job. You win. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are in
Everything
love
sucks.
with liberty.
Cool, bro. Yeah.
But they're more in love with being right than they are in love with the ideas of bringing about liberty, in the sense that they will do everything to sabotage themselves by being pessimistic. And why do that? Just have a little bit of hope, dude. Like, make a joke about it. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think there's so many people you would say, "Oh, you're so pessimistic." "Oh, I'm a realist." Like, no, you're missing the point. You're missing the point.
You could be both. You could be both. Like, I am very aware of what's going on, and I can still be hopeful about how things can change. And they're not mutually exclusive. So
exactly. Well, speaking about hope, PulseChain, PulseX. I'm going to let you make up your own question on this. Tell me, ask whatever you want, but answer it, and we'll both answer it. How about that?
Oh crap! Okay, this is a tough one now. Yeah. I don't want to hit the low-hanging fruit, which is like, when is it going to launch?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to touch on that. I guess.
Well, we already know it's in 2 more weeks. We already know that, so that's an easy. It's not a curveball, okay?
I think it's going to be after we've hit the bottom and there's an uptrend. That's what I saw happen with HEX. That's what makes the most sense with the chart, because if it launches before the bottom, now you painted a bad chart. And we know Richard Hart likes charts, and he likes being right.
Bragging.
And he bragging rights, all that stuff. So with that basic reasoning, I think it would be after it bottoms and there's a slight uptrend. Also, if Pulse is designed to be cheaper, faster, higher throughput than Ethereum, for the most part, those are the main talking points. Well, if the price of ETH is down, the fees are going to be cheap enough anyway, that most people can reasonably afford it. So if you launch for that reason, and people don't really care about the lower fees, then it doesn't have the same pull. Now, I think you should still launch before everything starts to pump anyway, because you want to be able to get whoever comes into the community, make them somewhat of a maximalist. That's okay. Mm-hmm. And then when things do start to pump and ETH is pumping, then you can be like, hey, well, we already have a system. Hey, let me talk to you about it. Let me explain to you about it. You need that community. So I think that is what I think about when it lines up with. So what are your thoughts on that?
Excellent job. No, I think, is there a better selling point for it than what if you could buy ETH on day one? Like, I don't know how better to sell it. You said,
or DCA over the first year. Let's say that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, day one, metaphorically, being early in the ETH, of course, but technically, of course, we know how these things work. They up and down. There's always a big dump. Blah blah blah. Yeah. But I don't know how people aren't interested in it. Can they just not get over the fact that? Is it because it's a Richard Hart project? Is it because they are already into other coins? Like, if you hear about PulseChain, you read the website, you see the faster version of Ethereum, new project coming out, get copy of her coins, new shiny ecosystem to keep people within the Richard Hart products and community and all this stuff, and so all the other ones benefit. All the rising tide lifts all those type of thing. How do you not do it? Do you just? I mean, maybe either you don't like Richard, or you already heavily invested in other projects, you don't have dry powder, or you're just over leveraged and broke right now. Is there any other reason why you wouldn't get into PulseChain?
That or just inexperience, right? Because if people haven't tried testnet, if people haven't had experience with DeFi, if you're not at least somewhat familiar with how HEX works and that you need to use, Uniswap or like a decentralized aggregator for the most part to get HEX, then these things seem like I'm just confused. I don't know how do I get Pulse? I think that might be one thing, but I think there is a lot more interest than I think we've forgotten how much interest there is because there's a lot of people of the mainstream influencers in crypto that sacrificed, and so whenever it does launch, whenever things do start to run, I think those people are going to come over and they're going to talk about it, and so. Until then, I think we're just in a holding period. The prices are down, people are out. It's exactly what you said. But they will come around, I believe.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain, and I'm trying to separate my bias and use my thinking and use my objective side. But I think I can't think of a reason why. Like why? Like if you want to, maybe it's the technology, maybe that's another one.
It might be gate kept. It might be gate kept too, because
is it literally just people don't know about it? I like that. I like that side. It's just people just don't know about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, CoinMarketCap might not list it, right? Because they don't like Richard. They don't like HEX. They arbitrarily
PulseMarketCap.com. Win PulseMarketCap.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's on Richard's. I think he said that at one point. But I think it's at like maybe at the very, very bottom. It's so low that he doesn't even mention it. But I think I do remember him saying that one time. But I mean, a community member could create that. It doesn't have to be on Richard, right? Like, that's not something that LVC has thought of, but like, similar things to help grow the ecosystem. Like, what that would be a value add. You have to make the money work, right? You have to have profit, or at least break even at the very least. And databases are expensive. Cost of running a website like that is expensive. Development costs are expensive. So there's a lot of things to consider. And when people get upset that people are building in PulseChain by taking profits, like, bro, these things cost a lot of freaking money. And until you're in it, you don't understand how much it costs and how much time commitment it is. It's a lot of the time. When we were working with the devs, like, I would have, and the devs are mostly in India, so I would have to operate on their time schedule, right? Wake up early, and we talked about how
I don't want that job, man. I've worked in the tech industry, and every time someone's like, "Oh, you need to have a meeting with India team," I'm like,
yeah. Late nights or early mornings, it is what it is.
Yeah. Would it be easier just to? I always think about it this way: why hasn't there or will there be more acquisitions? Like, why don't we just buy CoinGecko? And now we list all PulseChain stuff too. There's a tab that says PulseChain's first tab, of course. And then we have Ethereum tab, and now you can look at all the Ethereum market caps. Like, why hasn't there been more acquisitions in the HEX community, or for Richard himself? Is it going to buy an exchange? Remember when he said he's going to buy an exchange or something like that too? Like, why hasn't that happened yet?
Well, I think he is. As far as the exchange goes, I think he's working on like a stablecoin solution. He's mentioned that a few times, even in this recent stream. He didn't want to give away what the game theory behind it would be, but that is on his roadmap. I think it'd probably be better to start our own and develop your own rather than acquiring something that already exists, because one, you're gonna have to pay the hefty cost for it, and I don't think there's very many people other than maybe a couple whales that can afford it. But if they can afford it, they might as well just put the money into their own advertisement after they create their own version of it. So yeah, I mean, those are few reasons. I mean, what was the cost for buying CoinMarketCap? It was in the billions, so it's a hefty price tag.
Like 1 billion? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I don't know how many other than Richard Art. I don't think anyone has that kind of money.
So you think it's just not? You think it's just not been affordable to make an acquisition in that way so far, and that's why a lot of it hasn't happened. If it hasn't been from Richard himself.
I think Richard's point of view is that the guerrilla marketing or the outrage marketing, direct marketing is a much better value add and effective than buying a website and then trying to pump it that way, or creating your own website like that and trying to pump it. I think, and Richard doesn't talk about this, but this is just my thinking of it. I think Richard understands the grassroots approach to developing a crypto like HEX, because if you can create, and this HEX has only been around for like 2.5 years, like it hasn't been a very long time.
Yeah.
So if you can create a very strong community in the early stages that isn't influenced by these large institutions and the regulatory body, if you can really get it going through a grassroots, guerrilla marketing kind of way, I think in the long term that has the greatest success, right? Because if you get these institutions in now, so it causes a lot of problems that are unintended that we're not thinking about. So yeah, I know everybody wants to be a billionaire tomorrow, but if you really think about the long term, and which is what Richard Hart clearly is all about,
delayed gratification.
He's held Bitcoin for a very long time. I don't know if he actually sold whatever Bitcoin he had at the price calls that he made, but if he did, it would probably make him a lot of fucking money, and it clearly seems like he has a lot of fucking money. Sorry for cursing, but
sorry. No need to demonetize me. Will Legion VC be doing a pooled sacrifice phase to get all the HEX skins and Pulse skins to pull the money together to buy CoinMarketCap? It just came to me. It just came to me. Not at this time. Okay.
No, that's is that because Motley's asking? If we win the lawsuit,
did kind of remind me of that.
Yeah, if we win the lawsuit, I'm pretty sure we'll have the money to do that for sure. For as much as HEX will pump, like fuck, we can
to the moon. Forget the moon. We're going to Pluto. That not planet thing, right? Optimus Prime has a question I'm sure you know the answer to. Is Richard getting married?
I don't think he's getting married. I think he might have a kid in the future, but I don't think marriage. He still says he's a U.S. citizen, and even if you have a wedding ceremony without signing the legal paperwork, you can still be considered married. And so I don't think he wants to jeopardize his future for how much value he's added to himself to just give 50% away. Or even if you do a prenups they actually sometimes don't hold up in court. So I don't think it would be in his best advantage to do that. He's talked about how there's laws where if you break up for a period of time, the girl moves out, lives in her own place, you can argue that you guys aren't together, and therefore like a statute of limitations, I think every certain amount of years you have to break up, and then you could say that you're never married, but you could have kids together or whatever. So I think he's aware of that.
There's different common law stuff too in different states.
States, countries,
if I were to rack my brain about all the stuff he said over the years about relationships, it seems like he's not interested in getting married. But I think pretty sure he said he wants to have a kid at some point, which easier for men. They got plenty of time to wait on that part. And then his relationship style seemed very half open, I guess you would say. Like
open for him.
I remember saying so many times of like he doesn't want the other person to be with anyone else, but he gets to be with everyone else. So that's
I get
a style.
That. I get that. Style. Yep.
Correction from Motley, appreciate it. CoinMarketCap only sold for 400 million. So don't worry, the Legion VC sacrifice pool. We only need 400 million, not 1 billion, to retake CoinMarketCap. So
we're LVC is going to need 400 billion more dollars to get to that point.
Well, hey,
right now
we can do anything as a community, right? Come on, optimism, come on.
But I'm okay with the slow grind. I know people don't want it because they want to get rich quick, but I'm okay with the slow grind. This is much better, and you can clearly tell, like from we're in a major dip right now. But if we had smarter investors and people that could hold for longer time periods, we would have had less volatility. And
the funniest thing he said the other day when he was like, "You guys sure like selling the shit out of the HEX price, don't you?"
Right. So yeah,
you killed me, man. I was like, "You were so right, aren't you?" We found out how many people were actually staked, weren't we? 5555, huh? Yeah.
So the other thing is, I know you wanted to cut it, but
I forgot we were counting down. No, I know it's been great, man. It's been great.
We were on stream together. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of did. Yeah.
So the last thing I guess I'll say is that there's people who think they are of the 1%, and they're really not. And they're gonna, and only through time and experience will you figure out who they are. And so and people just have different preferences, right? Some people don't want to be the 1%. They want their money now. Maybe they're older in life and it doesn't matter to them as much. I don't know what the case may be, but you have to build these habits, and you have to have these habits coming into it to be successful. And you're just going to find out who those people are. And I'm okay with shaking out these people. I'm totally fine with that. People get upset, they want to leave, they get mad at Richard, whatever. That's fine. It's only going to redistribute. It's going to be more centralized ownership to the people who value it. And that's a beautiful thing. I'm okay with that.
Well said. I will leave it with a quote from Naval Ravikant, a person I love all this stuff. Another person I'll say Peter Thiel, Naval Ravikant, Richard. Read, listen to everything they have to say, and synthesize it, the wisdom from yourself for it. But he talks about, I want to play long-term games with long-term people. And if I were to describe the HEX community and otherwise, generally speaking, the way that, the delayed gratification, everything works, that fits the bill. Yeah. Long-term games with long-term people.
I like that.
I was just trying, what's Richard going to 70? We all change over time, and Richard may evolve the way he thinks about things too. But
if he has Scivive come to fruition, or longevity, maybe 70 is the new 40.
There you go. 70 is the new 30, 37 and a half. I like it. Well, we can only hope. I definitely want to live to be 200. I don't want to be like that, crippled up in a chair at 200. I want to be like, oh, I'm still able to run 200. Yeah. I want to be that 200.
Yeah.
So we can all hope and pray for good mental, good physical health. And man. Anything? Let's do I haven't did the gratitude section for a long time. Let's end with that. Let's see. I'm grateful for longevity research, and I think that's something amazing that I hope is going to happen. I think it's going to be well funded. I think Richard is going to kill. I think crypto, I've said this a million times, will be a footnote in Richard's Wikipedia article, whatever it is later on. I think it is a means to an end for longevity research, because he wants to literally save people, not just in wealth, not just financial freedom. That's just kind of a first step. That's an added bonus. He wants to have billions of dollars so he can fund, I've speculated, the Heart Foundation to save people alive, live healthier, happier, wealthier lives, and live a lot longer than we're living now. We can do better as a human race, and I think he's going to try to advance that. So I'm grateful for that area of research, and that it will be well funded in the future. How about you?
I think his ambitions are actually. I think the longevity is also a stepping stone to a much further, bigger dream that he has. Because although he is Richard Hart, although he is not an anarchist, he still sees a lot of the issues that are happening around the world. And I think he has some good ideas to make those better. And I think that is also a part of his end game is, if he can make people's lives longer, they'll value the life that they have and the future that they're going to have. And then maybe people create better decisions for themselves and for their future, that maybe people are too short-sighted these days. And HEX builds on that idea of delayed gratification. I think longevity builds on the idea of somewhat delayed gratification, and some of his other ideas for making the world a better place, which he doesn't talk about too much. But if you really dig into his older stuff, he alludes to those things. So, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for HEX and the opportunity he's given me. I'm grateful and hopeful for the communities that I've joined, like the conversation. Oh, you froze, I think. There you go. I'm grateful for this conversation. We've talked for like 2 hours, and it's been so much fun.
It's been great, man.
I really enjoy these kind of things, that meeting new people. Like, this is the first time we've seen each other face to face, in a sense, and we have a lot of commonality. We disagree on some things, but hey, we get along great. And dude, this could be a start of another great friendship. So that's what I appreciate. Yeah.
Awesome. That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. Yeah. You're going to be in Vegas soon, sounds like?
I will. I'll be there.
Well, I will too. So we might get to even shake hands, physically,
Sweet.
that type of
Yeah,
thing.
man.
Might be a part of it.
I think we might have to go for the hug, but we'll
Yeah, that's true. We're past. I am a hugger, so no, you're right up my alley on that.
Yeah, I mean, if we agree on so much, I feel like let's just let's be best friends. You know what I mean? Like, I want more best friends in my life that think the way I do.
No, we will certainly. I think we certainly got off to a good start. And
this is something I think you guys will like. When freedom is outlawed, only the outlaws will be free.
I was trying to read that earlier. I could only see the top part. I was like, I know it's got to say something along the lines of that. It's all on the back.
It says anti-state here. Yeah.
Dude, I like it. Where can did you make that, or where can we get those shirts?
No, there's antistate.net.
Antistate.net. Okay.
Yeah, it's not just about anarchy, but there's like phrases on there for you can find something for everybody, especially if you're liberty minded. But it's just a guy I followed on Instagram. He has his own store, and I like it because one of the things I think the liberty movement lacks is like cool merchandise, like things that you can represent out in the public. I wear this out, and people are like, dude, your shirt is so cool. And there are people that are total NPCs, right? Like people that, or even if they're like, they're starting to wake up, they're like, oh, that's a cool shirt. Little do they know I'm an anarchist, right?
Liberty curious, yeah.
Liberty curious, right? So like that's how you spread the word. Is you have to have and just that's what we do with HEX merch, right? We get this out there. People talk to us about it. Like, hey, that's a cool logo. Like, what is it about? Like, oh, what is HEX merch and what is Pulse and HODL, right? Like that's conversation starters. So.
Every time I go to a local meetup, and I wear a hat that says HODL or HEX or whatever, and people ask us, they came over to the table the other day and they're like, what does your symbol mean? Are you guys part of the company? Like, yeah, we're from hex.com.
Yeah.
And just stuff like that. So like people, it surprises me how much they're interested in things that they don't recognize that you're wearing. It surprised me how much questions you get. So it does work.
Yeah. Yep, being provocative like Richard is, it works. Yeah, so
it's almost like it works, huh?
Yeah.
And so I just want to tell people. So Yashdeep 369, right?
Yep.
On Twitter, yeah. Tell people where they can find you, what your channel is.
Yep, that's Twitter and Telegram, same handle. Instagram is the same handle. You can also find me as HEXdeep on Twitter or on Instagram. Sorry. But you want to go to LVC News Chat. That's where it's at. There's like 1,500 people, maybe even, actually, I don't even know how many people we have in there. But it's a lot.
Send that to me.
Yeah, we have 1,551 members right now. It's t.me/Legion VC News with an S.
Does it matter capitalization? Let's see. Yeah. Oh no, we lost him. No, come back. And he's back.
I meant to hit private chat and I hit login.
No worries. Did I get it right on the screen?
Yep, that's it. That's actually where you want to go. Screw the other handles that I have. I don't care about them. I don't post much on Twitter other than more liberty stuff. I'm actually not too active in the news chat either, but Wendy's and Motley and some of the other guys, they're in there. They provide a lot of great information. And so that's, we're up to date. We have current news that's going on. We'll talk about, prices. We'll talk about other game theory. You're welcome to talk about other cryptos, PulseChain, others, ask questions. It's not a maxi channel. But keep it respectful. But
just kidding.
Sorry, Max.
I feel very unwelcome right
now. But yeah, I mean, it's a great place to be. So you definitely want to check it out.
I'm gonna join that too. As soon as we get off, I'm gonna. I need to run down the road, but after that, I will join that. But yeah, everyone join that. Yeah, thanks, man. Of course, you can catch me RHMaximalist, just the way it sounds, on Twitter. You're on the RHMax channel right now. If you didn't know, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the all button, hit all the buttons, break your computer, smash it all in anarchy. No, just kidding.
Burn it down.
Burn it down.
There's actually I don't know how good it is. I've seen the first episode, but on HBO, there's a show that just released called The Anarchists. and
Oh,
it's actually really
okay.
good. It's really good so far. So
The Anarchist on HBO. I was
HBO.
looking for a good show. I'm not enjoying Westworld right now, not the new season. So
Okay.
I'm not. It's just
It-
season 1 and 2 is really good. Season 3, season 4. Yeah,
It's a
not
bit
doing it.
slow for me, so I couldn't get into the show, even though I love Breaking Bad, and so it's not just slow shows. I just couldn't get into Westworld.
I like your connection. I like Breaking Bad, so I'm definitely gonna like the third and fourth seasons of Westworld. Those guys in it. Yeah, he's good. I like him. I just don't like the other stuff going on.
Gotcha.
Go back to Westworld, motherfuckers. Anyways, thanks, chat. You all killed it. Chat enables the question. I told Yashdeep before we got on the stream, I'm like, yeah, there's probably not many people coming today. We'll have a lot of questions. And you surprised the crap out of me. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, chat.
You got to hand the PulseTube too. They got the live page. They got the aggregation of the content. I'm sure if I look at the analytics, I'm sure they sent some people my way too. So yeah, thanks for joining us. Yashdeep, been an absolute pleasure if that wasn't abundantly clear by now. And we're definitely going to talk again. If not virtually between now and September, personally, physically, intimate. We're going to meet together.
Pause.
Go away. Yes. And rug pulled. No. Okay.
All right.
Everyone have a wonderful day. I'm going to do the outro and stay cool, stay chill, and see you later.